People have this idea that inspiration is effort-free. They expect it to flow. When I started writing, I thought all the ideas were ready-made in my head, and the only thing I had to do was transfer them to the page. I didn't think it was something I had to create, something to earn. Once you start writing, that conception changes. So in this video, I'm going to propose something that may seem like work, but actually saves you a lot of work. Approach your writing like any project. The first thing to do is break it down. Get absolutely clear on the fundamentals. You need to know your character's drive. You need the conflict and resolution. If you don't have these, you do not have a story. Your writing will slow if you haven't got the high level right. So you need to know what your character will sound like before you hit your first dialogue. Or to take the example of my first short story, it didn't work as a short story. Most of the action was in the past. The reader was looking at it and thinking they would like a story about what had already happened last year rather than the aftermath, which they don't understand. Take time in the planning to get the fundamentals right. Do not overcomplicate, keep it simple. I've been tempted to try all sorts of clever things at this stage, but I think the true beauty of writing is clarity on the theme, on the character, and then how you execute, how you reflect this theme through 100 different shades across the story. Once you have these fundamentals, then like any other project, set your milestones. Set the milestone for the first draft, the edit, how many paragraphs do you want to complete in a day? And always think that each paragraph is just one sentence after the other, and each act is one paragraph after the other, and each story is one act after the other. Keep track of these almost in a spreadsheet. You'll be surprised at the progress you make. Yes, writing is a work of art, but it's also a project. And you need to blend these mindsets if you're going to get it done and get it done beautifully. Quick pause here to tell you about my storytelling coaching. Whether you have an online channel or your own business, storytelling is key to connecting with your audience. In the coaching, we will go through the timeless principles of commanding attention and inspiring your audience to take action. We will run through how to communicate in a way that is authentic and natural for you, as well as really understanding what will move your audience. To find out more, drop me a line at this email address and I will respond to you shortly. Now back to the video. My second piece of advice is to imagine yourself as different teams within an organization. Say for any work project, the tasks are split out by specialization. So you would have finance, strategy, operations, etc., etc. For writing, you have to be all of these in one. You have to be a generalist. Brainstorming the idea takes a very different skill set, very different personality to doing the final painstaking edit. You need to imagine these different personalities, assume different roles when you reach different phases of your writing project. Think of yourself like a one-person organization. Third element, of course, is deadlines, everyone's favorite. The thing is, a lot of people think that you can't put a timeline on creativity. When you give it this time pressure, that's when it dies. And I think to a certain extent, it's true. So it's super interesting how you get this balance right in a writing project. What I would say is that not all writing is about creativity. A lot of it is about exercising judgment. It's about detailed oriented work. When it is about the brainstorming phase, whether that relates to your theme, your plots, your characters, then I would relax the sensation of time. I would forget about it altogether. I would change up your environment and just play around. I wouldn't necessarily worry too much about distractions, obviously within reason, but you really want to open the scope of your imagination. That is ultimately how to be quote unquote efficient in your creativity, is to forget the idea of efficiency, to focus on making broad connections rather than moving in a straight line towards a certain outcome. On the other tasks, however, it is useful to set very clear deadlines. The major advantage is writing is sometimes an open gateway to procrastination. People tend to get obsessed about quality throughout the entire process because they see it as an artistic piece and they think art has to be perfect. You want to aim for that by the end of your writing. But in the meantime, sometimes it is literally just about quantity, getting that first draft onto the page, or if you're stuck, just keeping moving with word after word. Setting deadlines in these phases is extremely useful and can also perhaps free up some slack time for the more creative phases where you want to forget about time altogether. My final point is this: it's to stress that writing is iterative. It is circular. It does not progress in a straight line. For example, you may be working on your plot, your character's already finished, and you've got a great idea for a twist, but you don't think that your character would quite act that way. They wouldn't react to that situation as you have down. So you need to go back to your character development and adjust it, or you need to rework the plot. It does not progress in a straight line. Now, if you're in a startup kind of role and you're going for your MVP and iterating your product, this will probably feel quite similar. But in general, in projects, people have the conception that things progress in one direction. Writing is shuffling back and forth, side to side, whilst moving forwards the whole way. So set this expectation in your mind. If you have that chart on the wall that moves from left to right, don't get too upset if you're backtracking a little bit, and always factor in breathing room for doing precisely this. Sometimes it may not feel like progress, but this is progress in writing. Let me conclude with this. You write to feel free. Project management seems dull, repetitive, restrictive. It's the straitjacket. But mark my words, project management will set you free. You want to finish your writing project rather than starting one every 6 months. This will give you an enormous boost to your creative energy because you will see the momentum. You will feel the progress. You will feel like a writer.